The festivities of our beloved Hurrem Sultan's wedding were extraordinary. Dear viewers, for hundreds of years, Ottoman sultans followed one absolute rule: they never married. It preserved their power and protected the empire. Then one woman forced the most powerful man on earth to break his own law. In 1533, Süleyman unprecedentedly married Hürrem, contravening the Ottoman tradition forbidding sultans from marrying their concubines for centuries. She was raised to the premier title of Hafsa Sultan, a title crafted specifically for her, and was paid 2,000 aspers a day, a salary making her rich and far exceeding that of many other prominent imperial women, while her sons by Süleyman matured and left the capital of Istanbul to govern provinces. Hürrem did not follow them but remained in Istanbul, violating yet another tradition, the tradition of Sancakbeyliği, a woman who began her life in chains through slavery, violence and loss, yet against all logic and odds, broke all the glass ceilings and the rules of a centuries-old empire, becoming not only the favorite of the Sultan, but his legal wife, something no woman before her had ever been. Hurrem, while she caused a lot of tragedy sideways on her way to the throne, lived an incredibly successful and astonishing life herself. Marriage in the Ottoman Empire was a political danger. A legal wife was protected by law, religion, and court protocol, power that could not be revoked. Unlike concubines, she could not be dismissed, sold, or silenced. Her position was permanent, and her children gained an unquestionable claim to the future of the throne. That is why marriage was treated not as love, but as treason against the state. To defy this rule meant catastrophic consequences: exile, imprisonment, or execution, not only for the woman who gained forbidden power, but for the sultan who dared to place one woman above the empire. The harem existed to prevent exactly this. It was a system designed to control intimacy, limit influence, and ensure that no woman could ever rise high enough to challenge the throne. Which is why when the marriage of Hürrem and Süleyman finally did happen, it felt almost unreal. It was the first time an Ottoman sultan freed a woman in order to marry her. By this point, Hürrem was running out of time. Her eldest son, Şehzade Mehmed, was dead. Cihangir was frail and unlikely to rule. Selim was widely seen as unreliable. Bayezid was volatile and impulsive. And towering above them all stood Şehzade Mustafa, the eldest son of Sultan Süleyman, backed by Mahidevran, and overwhelmingly popular with the army, the court, and the people. Young, charismatic, and already viewed as the natural heir, Mustafa represented everything the old imperial order protected. In the eyes of the empire, the future already belonged to him. As long as Hürrem remained a concubine, her position and her children's lives were never secure. One command, one whisper from Mahidevran, and everything she had built could vanish overnight. This was not a story of romance, it was a fight for survival. Marriage was the only move left. A legal wife could not be cast aside, her sons could not be dismissed. By demanding marriage, Hürrem made the most dangerous decision of her life, directly challenging Mahidevran's power and rewriting the rules of the Ottoman court. In a system designed to erase women and their children, Hürrem's courage and ambition became her greatest weapons. Though visitors to the Ottoman Empire initially praised Hürrem during her debut for her grace, their views soon soured. After the 1520s, Süleyman began favoring Hürrem exclusively, focusing his attention on her so intensely that both members of the imperial palace and the general populace found it excessive. The Italian traveler Luigi Bassano wrote in 1545 that such love does bear that he has so astonished all his subjects that they say she has bewitched him, therefore they call her Jadi, which means witch, for this reason the Janissaries, and the entire court hate her and her children likewise. But because the Sultan loves her, no one dares to speak openly, and everyone speaks ill of her and her children, and well of the firstborn and of his mother, who has been repudiated. It is worth noting that such diplomats were far removed from the actual politics unfolding within the imperial harem, and relied largely on informants and street gossip for their reports. Nevertheless, they provide contemporary accounts of the Ottoman populace's deeply unsettled reaction to Hürrem's influence. Please stay attentive, as we are about to move to the details of the wedding in a moment. Before we continue, I please invite you to subscribe to my channel, to like the video, to support me in making more exclusive videos on this topic. The American writer Leslie Pierce says in her book Empress of the East, the European Slave Who Became Queen in the Ottoman Empire, that in the month of May of the year 1534, Sultan Süleyman the lawgiver concluded his marriage to Roxolana, or Harem. And at that exact time, the marriage was not celebrated or publicized because the time was not suitable at all. At that time, Sultana Ayşe Hafsa, the mother of Sultan Süleyman the lawgiver, had died, and Süleyman was also busy preparing a campaign to recover Baghdad, which he succeeded in annexing to the Ottoman state. And about a year and a half after the marriage contract, that is at the beginning of the year 1536, Hurrem, after the Sultan returned safely to his homeland, exerted great pressure on him so that her status as his lawful wife would be announced before the public, and indeed that was achieved for her. It seems that the royal wedding ceremony surprised foreign societies, as the Italian ambassador who was present in Istanbul at that time spoke about it and said the following about it. This week, there has occurred in this city a most extraordinary event, one absolutely unprecedented in the history of the sultans, remarked the Istanbul representative of the Genoese Bank of St. George. The Grand Signor Süleyman has taken to himself as his empress a slave woman from Russia. There is great talk about the marriage, and none can say what it means. At night, the principal streets are gaily illuminated, and there is much music and feasting, noted the banker's dispatch. The houses are festooned with garlands, and there are everywhere swings in which people swing by the hour with great enjoyment. The public festivities highlighted entertainment, just as the memorable circumcision celebration of 6 years before had. Although the 1530 events' duration and extravagance were greater, the venue was the same, as was, at least in part, the menu of amusements. This time, however, Roxolana was a center of attraction. In the old hippodrome, a great tribune is set up, the place reserved for the empress and her ladies screened with a gilt lattice, wrote the Genoese banker. Here, Roxolana and the court attended a great tournament in which both Christian and Muslim knights were engaged, and tumblers and jugglers, and a procession of wild beasts. The giraffes had necks so long that to the unaccustomed spectator they appeared to touch the sky. When discovering the real grandeur of Hürrem's wedding, a lot of viewers feel the same frustration. The series didn't really do it justice. We watched Hatice's wedding unfold with spectacle, ceremony, grandeur, emotion, and then when it came to Hürrem's, it felt restrained, almost underplayed, and that is ironic because historically this was not a minor event, it was transformative. This was not simply a beautiful surprise wedding, it was a political reclassification. As historian Leslie Pierce notes in Empress of the East, the marriage prepared the way for Roxolana's public career. Soon afterward, she would establish a philanthropic foundation in Istanbul, becoming the first royal mother to build in the Ottoman capital. That detail matters because architecture in the Ottoman world was visibility. Visibility was legitimacy. And legitimacy was power. For Hürrem, the wedding must have been the most beautiful and meaningful day of her life. However, how about for our beautiful consort and mother of a Prince Mahidevran Gulbahar Sultan or Hatun? Mahidevran had long positioned herself as the future validee. There are even rumors that the relation between her and Ayşe Hafsa Sultan was cold and tense for a long period of time due to this, and that Ayşe wanted Süleyman to have more heirs to keep Mahidevran's behavior from getting more and more pretentious over time. Her son, Mustafa, was the strongest candidate, young, popular, charismatic, tall and handsome, and adored by the army, and Mahidevran definitely behaved accordingly. Sources suggest strongly that she carried herself already with the confidence of a future queen mother. Perhaps it was this hope that allowed her to endure everything she had endured from Süleyman. However, the second Hürrem became the legal wife of the Padishah. Unfortunately for our beautiful spring flower Mahidevran, the hierarchy shifted. She no longer was the unquestioned mother of the inevitable heir. She was now merely the outcasted, the mother of a rival prince. This was definitely a silent downgrade. Also, and while the accounts are very cheap of info in this regard, It is not entirely clear whether the Velid Sultan ever opposed Hurrem or even Suleiman's marriage to her. Some sources suggest she may have even favored her. It is in fact debated whether the Velidi or Suleiman himself gave Hurrem her new name. But what we do know is this: Mahidevran believed she had seniority. She believed she embodied tradition, and suddenly, she did not. The wedding mercilessly elevated Hurrem's rank at the expense of Mahidevran. It must have been deeply painful. The real victory was not romance. This was not just a wedding. It was a redistribution of power inside the empire. And for those watching closely, especially Mahidevran, it must have felt like watching the future slip. Frankly, it is striking that Mustafa did not attempt a coup following his father's marriage to Hurrem, especially since, in theory, he possessed the support that might have made such an attempt possible. The wedding could easily be read as a political signal, a gesture that strengthened the perceived legitimacy of one of Hurrem's sons, rather than Mustafa himself. So, why did Süleyman marry Hurrem? Some other accounts say the following. In the spring of 1534, two events coincided: the death of Hafsa Sultan and Süleyman's urgent need to depart for the Eastern campaign. With the Queen Mother gone, a significant barrier disappeared. Elevating a concubine through marriage while Hafsa lived would have diminished her authority as the undisputed matriarch of the dynasty. She was the family elder, the only person before whom the Sultan was said to rise. Her death changed the calculus. Mahidevran too had already been removed from the old palace the year before, resolving another potential obstacle. But politics extended beyond the harem. With his mother gone, Ibrahim Pasha at the frontier, and his only adult son governing Anatolia, Suleiman lacked a trusted intimate in the capital. The empire required supervision. Istanbul required stability, and Hurrem was not simply a favored consort, she was already a political presence. Passion and politics were intertwined. Strategic considerations clearly mattered, yet personal attachment cannot be dismissed. Hurrem had long ceased to be an ordinary concubine. Suleiman had already broken precedent for her repeatedly, limiting his relations with other women, keeping her near, allowing her unusual visibility. The marriage did not create her influence. It formalized it. What the ceremony accomplished was legitimacy. It gave institutional recognition to what had already been reality. Hurrem was no longer merely the mother of several princes. She was positioned as the central maternal figure of the dynasty. And that shift would echo for decades. The legacy? In retrospect, this moment marks the beginning of what historians later call the Sultanate of Women. The marriage redefined the political role of imperial women in Istanbul. It demonstrated that influence could be formalized, that proximity could become permanence. But the wedding was not a final victory. It was protection, and protection was not enough. Because in the Ottoman system, legitimacy did not eliminate rivals. It intensified them. If Hurrem's sons were to inherit securely, one problem remained: the heir. And that is where the story turns darker. In the next chapter, we move from ceremony to consequence, from marriage to elimination, because the wedding was only the beginning.